Welcome back to Writing Done Right. Well, today we're going to talk a little bit about newsletter lists in the free and open source solution called phplist. So if you're into FOSS solutions for your different technologies, this is going to be the video for you. So welcome back to the channel. I'm Tom Morosky, an author and a technology consultant, and today we're going to be looking at the free and open source application called phplist, which gets you pretty much all of your functions of your major newsletter list systems all built into a free and open source package. So if you're definitely into producing your own solutions, you're definitely into working with a little bit of the technology underlining things. Maybe you don't like some of the other solutions that are offered inside of these other companies, or maybe you just don't want to be handing off all of your newsletters out to other companies out there. phplist is a solution that you might be looking for. Now, don't jump right on into this guy without heeding a few points of warning first. Okay, so the first point is this: limits on emails from servers. So if you are going to any basic server like a GoDaddy or something like that, and you get yourself a shared server, phplist is not going to be a solution for you. The reason is nearly every one of these shared servers at these companies limit the number of emails going out, and it's often very small. So if you have a 1,000 email list system, you cannot send those out over the course of a day. You can still use phplist and send it out in smaller batches, but there's a few issues. The second problem with using one of these shared servers is that you are sharing server space with possibly hundreds or thousands of other websites, which may have not very reputable websites on it. And that could mean that your emails have a much greater chance of being blocked by spam filters before they ever land in your user's inbox if you're using one of these shared servers. So if you are wanting to consider this, you have to be doing either a VPS or some other solution where you have a dedicated IP and control over the number of emails your server can send out in any given period of time. Those are going to be things that you are going to want to deal with. In my case, I have a big VPS that I use for myself and all of my various clients, so I'm not actually worried about this. I also have a dedicated IP address, so nobody else is out there using my address. All right, so the second factor is, where do we get this guy? Well, head on over to their website at phplist. I think it's phplist.org. We'll have it right down there when I get this there. And then what we're going to do here is I want to walk you through a basic setup. Now, we're not going to do a full comprehensive on everything on this video. I just want to show you how to download it, how to get it set up on a control panel server, and how to get some of your basic settings in place so that you will be ready to go. If there happens to be interest in this by more than one or two people, I will consider doing a wider series on this, but I honestly think this is such a narrow market. This is more of an informative, here's what it is and how to get started with it. But if I get a lot of requests to go further, how to customize your templates and using it beyond that, we'll go ahead and consider more videos in it in the future. But let me know your thoughts on all that in the comments down below. Okay, so here we are over on the computer, and first we're going to start out by saying, remember the limitations that I mentioned in the introduction. Not all of your web hosting services will allow you to install phplist on your server simply because there's limitations on the number of emails that many of your shared server platforms can handle. So with that, if you do still like the FOSS software, in other words, software that you can audit the code and things like that, and you are looking for a solution, phplist would be a good place to go. And if the paid service, and I've never used their paid service, but if their paid service is anything like the install, it works very well, and it has a lot of the features that would bring it very similar to how MailChimp was before MailChimp decided to rebrand itself as a full CRM solution, which I find is overkill, and actually the limitations that MailChimp now puts on the accounts are, to me, a little bit more frustrating, and that's why I'm actually installing phplist to dump MailChimp for my Christian author website stuff. And so first, let's go ahead and have a quick look at our phplist.com, which is the paid service. So if you head on over here, it's basically phplist hosted on their high reputation email list platform. If you head on over to the payment option, we have a pay per subscriber or a pay per message. So if you have 500 subscribers, it's going to cost you $8 per month. 1 million messages, I'm guessing that's per month, and $500. Or excuse me, $500. Wow, 500 subscribers. My apologies. For $8 per month. If you bump this up to the next level of 1,000 subscribers, it's going to charge you $10 per month. And up here, 2,500. Of course, one of the limitations that you'll notice is the number of messages that you have. Now, with your messages, remember that the number of emails that you send times your subscriber count equals your monthly message amount. So you can see even up to 10,000 subscribers, it's going to cost you $300 per month. You can also do a pay per message option. So this guy here, you can see the subscribers counts are pretty much locked in at 1 million. And if you want to do 2,000 messages, so maybe you would do 4 messages a month, 500 subscribers, it's going to cost you $5 a month. And so the pricing is pretty good depending on what your emails you're working. How does this compare to MailChimp, for example? Well, if you head on over to MailChimp here, we have our standard, which is $14 a month. If we calculate our price, though, this is what we have. So if you have the very next one up is 2,500, you can see that we went from, let's see what they're, 2,500 is $15 a month versus $50 a month. So phplist might be something that you want to examine a little bit more closely. All right, so enough of that. You say, all right, I understand the limitations. I like working with software. I want to be able to have the most control. How do we actually pull this guy off? Well, you're going to head on over to phplist.org. This is where you can download a copy of the software and install it onto your system. So hit the download button up here at the top of the screen, and then this is going to download a list of files for you. So it's going to download the zip file. So over here is the zip file, phplist-3.5.3, the current version, and then we're going to extract that. And inside of here, we have the installation instructions, which takes us to the install section. And I forgot to pull that up in my list here. So let's go ahead and just pull up our install instructions. Very easy to work with. So here's going over here, and here's our installing and upgrading page. Installing it manually, that's what we're going to do. All right, so now that we have that, the next thing we have is we have this public_HTML. And then this page here is just a sample, hey, replace this with your own website. Then we have this folder called lists. And inside of here is actually the guts that make the system work. And so this is what we are going to be working with here today. So what I do want to do is I want to show you how to pull all of this off. Now, I am going to put in this caveat. Their installation instructions have you going to your website/lists. I don't like that as a solution personally, but hey, we have the capability of doing with it whatever we want. So I'm going to show you how to install this as a subdomain, as I have done on my WritingDoneRight website. So if you head on over to WritingDoneRight.net, there is a newsletter sign-in that will take you to newsletter.writingdoneright.net. And so this is where we have our newsletter sign-in page. So if you were to land here, you can enter your email address here, which is required. You can select that you prefer text format messages instead of HTML. And then you can put in your name, which is optional. And then you have the option of book updates or project updates. I think eventually I might cut these down just for simplifying my newsletter system. Okay, now there's other ways of doing it as well, like I did on Synaptergy, which I am actually using a subdomain, or excuse me, a folder instead of a subdomain, but I didn't want to do lists. I wanted to change that to newsletter. And so this here, you can see that we have highly customized this landing page. These are basically the same page. It's just this one is customized for the theming of the website. Okay, so you can do a lot of different things if you understand how the underlying code works. What we're going to do is we're going to install this as a subdomain, newsletter dot. So what we're working with is a website I'm going to call example.com. I grabbed this very quick demo template, which is from startbootstrap.com. And I just uploaded this to a sample server at example.com is kind of what we wanted to do. So now what we're going to do is we're going to walk through and we're going to look at our CPanel account. So you log into your CPanel, and most of your hosting is going to be CPanel. If you're not using CPanel, you're going to have to look up how to add databases, how to add subdomains, and how to upload files. In my case, what I have is I am uploading files on FileZilla, and I have that running right here. And it is still loading files. There is a step in the instructions that says get coffee. That's exactly what's going on. This has been going on for about 5 or 10 minutes now, and it's not quite halfway done. So we might have to pause the video recording here partway through. It depends on how quickly we run through the rest of the steps. So the first thing we want to do is you want to set up your subdomain, which I've already done so I could transfer these files, but I'm going to show you how to do it by adding just a sample domain. So I already added newsletter.example.com, which is where our newsletter list is going to be. So to do this, just enter your subdomain name. If you happen to have multiple domains on your account, you can go ahead and select it from here. So if I just select my basic example, this is going to tell us that at our root directory, we're going to find blah.example.com. Hit create, and then that's going to create a domain. Now, on my server here, we actually have auto SSL running, so everything I do has SSLs, but since this is not a real domain, the SSLs will not work. So whatever I'm doing here, no SSLs, but I'm going to show you how to toggle that on, which you are going to want to do. Make sure everything is running through your SSLs. I have an affiliate link for A2 hosting. One of the reasons I like them is you get those free SSLs with each of your domains. Go into your domains listing here, and then you can see that this guy here, force redirect on or off. I cannot toggle it on right now simply because there's not an SSL here. So I'd want to toggle these guys on. That way nobody accidentally lands on the page without security, because we don't want to be transmitting emails or names without security turned on. So make sure you toggle those guys on, which is not the option right here, just because this is a sample domain. Okay, the next thing you're going to need to do is you are going to need to create a database. So we're going to find your SQL database wizard is what I prefer to use. You can do it manually in 2 steps inside your databases, but I'm just going to use my wizard. The other thing that we're going to need here is I'm going to need a word pad opened up, or a text pad opened up. And I believe this guy here, so this is my sample domain, which by the time this video goes live, this whole site's going to be trashed, so I don't care if you see that that's the password. Okay, so the next thing we are going to do is I need to go ahead, I'm going to keep this guy open just off to the side here, so we're going to copy and paste stuff into it. We need to create a database. So I'm just going to call it phplist. You probably want to call it something a little bit more elaborate than that. We're going to hit the next step. I like keeping 7 or 8 characters just because it's the limitation to the username. Keeping the username and the database name the same is fairly conventional. So my full database name is example_phplist, and my username is going to be example_phplist. So I'm going to take that and I'm going to put that into my file, which, because of my overlay, it's not allowing me to show you that I just pasted that into my file here. All right, we'll show you that in a bit. We want to generate our password. So we're going to copy this password, drop that into that saved file. And then the next step, it's going to ask us which permissions we want to give it. We want to give it all permissions. Hit next step. Now it tells us that the user of example underscore PHP list was created for the database example underscore PHP list, and we have the password. So that is all we are going to need right here for our setup. So the next thing to do is just make sure that everything is done. So here is my file. We're going to save that in case we have a computer crash. And we have about 5,000 files left to transfer. So I'm going to pause the video for now, and we will be back when this is done transferring. All right, so we are getting close. We're down to just under 2,000 files, and there's one more step we're going to have to do anyway here. So let's go ahead and get started on that. So we're going to open back up our lists directory, and these are the files that we're moving over there right now. We're going to need to make a change to our configuration file. So it's inside of your lists configuration, and we want to change config.php. Now, there are some more advanced functions and features we might need to borrow from the config extended. If I remember correctly, one of those is to force everything on phpmail's end to go SSL, but we're not going to turn that one on right now. We just want to get the basic system up and running now so you can start exploring it for yourself. So we're going to open up our config file, and this is some things that we are going to need to adjust. The first thing is, very first up in this line, this is how the system connects to your database on your server. So remember this list of stuff that we had to grab. This again was our database name and our database user. So database host generally is localhost. There are some cases where it's not. You would generally be made aware of that by your hosting company, but for the most part, that is going to be localhost. So we're going to paste this into database name and to database user, and then we need our database password as well. So we got to go in here and add our database password. Okay, so the next thing is the test option here. If this is test 1, the system will not send any emails. We're going to leave this at 1 for now, but we might actually have to change that a little bit later. Okay, that is going to tell us, are we ready to send emails? And you don't want to do that until everything is done, everything is ready, and you've tested your system. There is actually a line that we are going to need from our config extended. So I'm going to go ahead and open this up. Now this can replace your original config file, or you can just grab individual lines. The one that we need is this part here. We don't actually need the whole description. We just need this. I am, though, going to copy the whole description just so we can remember what it is. So we're going to copy that guy and just drop to the bottom of this line here, and we'll drop this guy in. Now, this is defining where our root is. So the main domain name, so in this case, example.com, is what the domain name of the system is. Now, what our default looks for is example.com/lists. That's the one that I said, I don't like that. It doesn't seem as professional to me. So this is why we changed it to the domain name. Now, if we simply change the folder like I did on Synaptergy, I'm just going to change this to the new folder name, which was, I think, newsletter, or maybe it was newsletters. Okay, but if I am using a subdomain is treated as a document root, so we leave it blank, not with a slash, blank. It actually tells us that in this line right here. If you install in the document root, the value should be an empty string, not a slash. Okay, do not change any of these after the installation, only change this before the installation. You want to make sure that this is all changed before the installation, otherwise it's going to cause some goofiness going on in your system. We're going to save this file, and we're down to just 300 files left, so that's all we really need to do. Just change our document page root there. We want to change our database information, and we should actually be good on that. So what I'm going to do here is we just have a couple more files to go. I'm going to right-click, refresh this guy, and it looks like we don't have everything over here quite yet. So we're just going to wait for these extra 200 files, and then we'll be set to go. Okay, so here everything is uploaded into the server. Just go into our config, and we just need to change our config file over there. Just overwrite the old one with the new one that we just made the changes to. And now with that, we are actually ready to go to our newsletter sign up. So let's go to newsletter.example.com. Now, when we land here, notice that it's telling us databasing error, it doesn't exist. This is because we actually need to land on the admin page first. So go into admin. Now it tells us here we're running in test mode. Remember, that was that test 1. And then we need to initialize the database to make sure everything is set. So click on the initialize the database button. And once we set the initialize database button, then now it's going to give us the ability. We need to enter our name. So we'll call this Tom. Example, our organization name, we'll call this example.com as our organization name. So this is basically going to show up as your default subject. This will show up as your basic from. Enter your email address. So this one over here, we want to set up an email address for that. Let's go ahead and set up an email address, shall we? Okay, so inside of here to set up an email address, we're going to go down to email accounts. And then down here, we're going to, this is your basic catch-all. We generally don't want to use that. Hit the blue create button over here and enter your user email name. So let's call this newsletter. And then generate a password. And then you can set your storage space to unlimited or 250 megabytes. You can send welcome instructions with the email. Go ahead and hit create. So now we have newsletter@example.com is our newsletter there. Okay. So let's go ahead and jump in on over here. And then we will go ahead and do newsletter@example.com. And then enter our password. Now your default login name is going to be admin. It is possible to change that in the database servers, which I would advise you to do because admin is a huge target anytime you find a login screen. But we do need to enter a password here. So let's go ahead and find, actually it looks like I closed out my file there. Let's go ahead and find my file again there, which is, I believe it's this one here. Let's go ahead and give ourselves a password. Let's just say really good password. There we go. That's my password. It's really good password. All right. Do not recommend using that. All right. So let's go ahead and enter in our password, hit OK. And now it's going to set us up. Everything is good. So, hey, now we have success. And with that, it says, tell us about it, whatever else. So let's go ahead and land back on our PHP list. All right. So now that we have landed over here, we need to get logged in. So we'll do our admin and enter our password. And now that we are landed here, you have the ability here to access, here's inside of your subscribers. So we can search subscribers, manage subscribers. You can upload lists, download lists, import, export. We also have under campaigns, we have send a campaign, list a campaign. We can add templates. So you can actually create your own templates. Your statistics, how many people are opening things up, what's the URL clicks. There is a variety of system settings and configuration settings. You're going to want to flip through a lot of these items to see what you have. So, for example, if you wanted to do lists, I believe they are down, let's see, subscribe pages. This is where you're going to create a variety of just different landing pages to do things on, and that's going to get you the ability to do some lists. Down here is your category lists where you're going to set those up. Again, we're not going to go into all of the background, how to use and get everything set up. Mostly it's pretty self-explanatory, but if there is a lot of requests, I will go ahead and do how you do more advanced customization on this. I imagine this is kind of a low a low request to do in more detail. But let me know if I'm wrong, and there's a couple dozen people asking me to do videos. I will definitely do more videos about how to get everything customized. But we should be pretty much set to go. Once you get your lists in and create your campaigns and stuff like that, then you are going to want to open up that config file, config.php file, turn that test mode from from 1 to 0. So that's down here, 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 config. And that's this one down here. So all you need to do to get this guy ready to go is change this from 1 to 0, save it, upload that file. And now when I refresh this page, our test mode notice is gone. Now, how do you actually access this? Well, you just need to land on whatever root page that we landed on. So newsletter.example.com. Without being logged in, this is going to give you the ability to subscribe to the newsletters. Now, right now, we are logged in as the admin. So let's go ahead and log out of the admin, and we'll log out of the admin and do that. So let's go ahead and log out and go back to this page here. So now we're just as a user would land on this page. Enter your email address, confirm your email address, and then choose whether you want HTML or non-HTML. Hit the subscribe. Of course, the default, it's going to send an default email back to indicate the person needs to click and verify the link to make sure that somebody's not inappropriately adding emails to the list. So that's definitely something that you want to do. Now, this is looks a little ugly, but I'll remind you that you can actually do a lot of good customization. So this is what we're doing with Writing Done Right. It's not a super amazing site. I didn't really want to do a lot more differently than this, but the other one at Synaptergy, this one is a highly customized list where you can, we've even changed the text. Required fields are marked in orange. We're using a full bootstrap mode on here, and you can choose your option, text or HTML here. Our buttons, of course, are customized. So you can do pretty much anything that you want to do with these customizations on the page. You can kind of turn it into your own, and that's that. So with all that being said, let me know if this was a helpful tutorial, and if there's, like I said, if there's more than 1 or 2 people that want a lot more details on this, then we'll go ahead and do more videos on that. If it's just 1 or 2 of you and you want to hire me to pimp out your site, I'll go ahead and do that for you, no matter what we want to do with that. So thanks for coming along. Subscribe to the channel if you've not already done so. Give me some likes and some comments down there. Let me know if this was helpful or not. And as usual, I hope that we have taught you how to get your writing